In this video, we're going to learn about the grid, the guidelines, the rulers, and the snap to options. And so the first thing I'll point out is that there is a button on the left-hand side that can be used to show or hide the grid or show it, basically. And the next thing I'll point out is that there is a ruler along the left and along the top of your workspace. And if you right-click on that ruler, you can quickly change from inches to metric measurements and back to inches again. The next thing I'll show you when you right click on your ruler is there's a menu, and in that menu you have another option to, I guess, show or hide the grid, but also in there is the ability to turn on your grid settings as well as the options for snap to, and we'll come back to the snap to options in a moment, but let's open up the grid settings. And so you'll see a window opens up and you can control the minor gray lines as well as the darker purple lines. So I currently have my grid set up for 1/4 of an inch minor grid lines, and then every 8 of those a major grid line in purple. You could choose the color of your grid lines. You can also decide to have your grid shown as solid lines instead of dotted lines. And there's also an option in grid settings for showing your grid as dots instead of grid lines. And so those are all different options for how to display your grid. From the options menu, you have the ability to turn on and off the snap to options, but those can also be achieved at any time on the fly when you right click on top of your ruler. And so snap to grid and snap to guidelines, well, we haven't actually talked about guidelines yet, and so let's talk about those next, and then we'll do the snap to options. So guidelines simply means you click on your ruler and you drag to create a new reference line that is not one of the actual grid lines. And so if you hide your grid, your guidelines will still be available. You can make vertical guidelines as well as horizontal guidelines. You can have as many of them as you want. And so these are guidelines versus a grid. And when you're working with your guidelines, if you hover over one, you can select it to move it again. Or if you go all the way back to the ruler, it's kind of like deleting it. If you want to remove all of your guidelines, you can right click at the top and there's an option that says remove guidelines, and that will clean them all up. So let's go ahead and turn on the grid and right click and turn on snap to grid, and that will now interact with drawing. And so if you click on your pencil and you want to click a point, it will naturally snap. You don't even have to get perfectly on top of it, just get close and you can easily snap to your major grid lines. You can snap to the minor grid lines, but essentially what I'm doing right now is clicking to draw a shape like that. And when I right click, I will finish drawing my shape, and I can select my shape and fill it in with color. So now let's go ahead and right click and turn on the snap to move option. So now we have turned on both snap to grid and snap to move, and that means when I pick up my shape and move it, it will naturally snap to the next grid line in my on my background there. So you can move your shapes and they will snap to your grid when you turn on snap to move. If you turn on snap to guidelines and then you draw some guidelines, then also it'll snap to that. So if we turn off the grid and draw, and we can snap right to our guidelines, just get close to them kind of thing, and it'll snap right onto it. Okay, so there was one more option in there, and that was snap to anchors. And you'll notice right away when I turn on snap to anchors that all of my points that I've punched for the other shapes become available. And so now if I draw a new shape, I could click and it will snap to a previous anchor. And so if I wanted to make a new shape and I needed it to be connected on some sides like that, I can use snap to anchors. And you can of course turn on all of the snap to options or only the ones that you want turned on at any one given time. And so you can turn them on and off from the right click menu on the ruler, but of course they're also available from within the actual grid settings itself. And so this has been an excellent video about how to use the grid as well as guidelines, as well as the rulers and all of the snap to options.